Hey guys, my guest for you today is Colin Andrews, someone who literally lost millions of dollars in crypto and then took 20 grand and turned it to millions of dollars in boring real estate that is self-storage units. And if you're someone that has no money, you want to know exactly how to get into one of the fastest growing asset classes when things are bleak, or if you want to go ahead and find out how to invest certain parts of excess cash, like what I want to go ahead and do with my magic internet money, then this podcast is literally for you. One of the things that I was always curious on is most people, when they go ahead and want to make money and invest, they want to go ahead and chase the crypto gains. And I know when we met initially, you made millions of dollars in crypto, and it was crazy because it was in Thailand. And when then I saw you again, you're like, no, I'm in self-storage and I'm doing this self-storage unit thing and making money on that, and it's a lot safer. So walk me through, because I know a lot of people want to go ahead and invest their money.
Sure.
But walk me through why you went from something that gets so much mass appeal, like crypto gains, to something boring like self-storage.
Absolutely. So yeah, 2017, I had a buddy that was like, Colin, there's this thing called Bitcoin, this blockchain. And I had, I'd heard of it before, but it was very, I thought it was just something techie, something that, was just a fad. I didn't know about it. And then he sat me down and he said, watch these videos. And it basically just broke down crypto, the future of money, just everything. And I had read The Creature from Jekyll Island. I've learned about the Federal Reserve and just how fractional banking works and all of that. So I understood that there's major issues with the current monetary system, but it wasn't until I sat down and watched these videos that my mind was like, boom. And I was like, okay, this is it. I'm going hard. I'm going to go into it, and put six figures into it in March of 2017. At right around $1,100. And as we all know, in 2017, it just absolutely exploded, went up to right around $20,000 in December. And I had never made those type of returns. I had over a 40x return on it. So it took six figures, turned it into seven figures. I was the smartest investor. I had all my friends saying, man, I wish I would have done it. Colin, you told me to go into it. Colin, I wish I shoulda, coulda, woulda, didn't. And I was just sitting on top of the world. And I thought this is great. I'm going to be able to retire my parents. I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to be able to travel the world. And I did. I started, enjoying the fruits of being lucky, really. I mean, let's call it what it is. I didn't put in the blood, sweat, and tears of starting a business and hiring people. I made a smart investment choice. It worked out really well. However, in 2018, it all changed. And when you had such a investment that just blew up and exploded, and then the next year, 2018, it absolutely went the other direction. And there was times, Mike, that I would wake up, and before I even got out of bed, China had banned crypto for the fifth time, and I was down six figures before even getting out of bed. And having that type of too fast, too quick, too much, that a lot of, whether it's an artist or whether it is a football player, that when you get it, and then when you do something, like in my case, just holding on to it and watching the value of my crypto assets just go down and down and down, it was really difficult for me. And going through that experience of 2018 and going from being the smartest investor in 2017 and having this, crystal ball that, people thought that I had to put in this, substantial amount of money, then in 2018, completely have it go to lose, 80, 85% of my portfolio value. It kept on getting lower, lower, and lower. By the end of 2018, I was depressed. And even though that I was up higher than what I initially had put in, I was absolutely devastated. And I was a wreck emotionally, financially, spiritually. And for me, I felt like I got to do something to show myself and to the world that I'm still successful. And so I was actually living in Medellin, Colombia at the time. And I decided, I was like, I'm going to get this huge Pablo Escobar built mansion, absolutely beautiful, marble floors, 6 bedrooms, over 10,000 square feet, indoor pool, beautiful place. And I get this place, I throw these huge parties, I bring in the wrong type of people surrounding me, and it was so quick, so fast to go from having all the success and huge asset worth to absolute destruction in every single way. And it was really difficult because I pushed the people that were close to me, the people that really loved me, and the people that were trying to take from me, the vampires, the folks that said, you know what, I can take advantage of this guy. And it was a downward spiral. Drugs, alcohol, the wrong type of women. And because of that, I ended up having to leave Colombia. I had the Colombian government that said, Colin, you're a freaking maniac. You are absolutely, your neighbors hate you. You're a complete degenerate. And I had to leave the country. And it was the beginning of 2019. And so to go from, this, I'm going to retire my parents, to actually having to go back home in 2019 and recuperate and say, you know what, I got to make some major decisions in my life, because what happened to me is something that I never want to happen again. And so at that moment, I decided to stop drinking alcohol. I've been, now 3.5 years without a sip of alcohol. And I said, I'm going to start back. And because of the ups and downs of crypto, I'm not going to put all of my assets in something that I do not have control. I don't have control of what is going to happen, what kind of decisions that the government is going to make. And I ended up deciding that I want to get back into something that I can control, a business, an asset class, something that I can do that I can have more impact on, and be able to create what it is that I want to create, and not have to roll the dice and hope that this magical internet money is going to go in the direction that I want. Ended up choosing self-storage after researching for 4 months, what type of real estate that I wanted to go back into. I'd done real estate right out of college, doing residential, flipping houses and such, and ended up deciding, you know what, I am going to get back into real estate, but not residential. So I started looking at multifamily, started looking at assisted living facilities, started looking at triple net lease, and self-storage. And I looked at all of it. I analyzed what my strengths are, and I said, self-storage is what I'm going to do. I put on the blinders. I found mentors. I read and listened to every podcast, every book that I could get my hands on involving self-storage. And in March of 2021, I did my first marketing for self-storage, and the rest is history. Now have over $10 million in assets, own 6 facilities, over 1,000 units, and it's been a beautiful blessing that has allowed me to, get back to, the place where I was at with all of this internet magic money that I had, that I got so fast, so quick. But now I feel like I'm building something of real substance, that has a true foundation, and that I can grow in a much more sustainable way. So that's kind of been the path that I've been on, and where I was so upset and so frustrated that I did not take more money off the table when I had it in 2017. Ultimately, it really made me a better person. And I am a firm believer that trauma and going through these type of experiences make you a better person.
That's a phenomenal story, man. Because it's like, I saw you who you were before, and I see you now, and you're just completely different. Just even the way that you talk, the way that you walk, the way that you kind of just even network. Like in the past, when the money came up, it was more like loud and all of these things, and like I got something to prove. But now there's some type of calmness to you, and something that, it's like maybe the money went up before your identity did, but now I see that you're actually that person that deserves like all of the wealth, which is really amazing.
Wow, appreciate
so that. What I want to know is, how much money did you lose? And when you lost all of that money in crypto, what were the main lessons that you learned in terms of investing to make sure you never do ever again when you go up the second time you start making money?
Yeah, great question. So, well, first, when we hear about the average millionaire loses it the first time, when I heard that, I was like, there is no way. When I make these $1 million, I don't care what's going to happen. I'm going to freaking put that in a freaking bunker and no one is going to touch it. I'm not losing $1 million. Who would be such an idiot to work your ass off and then freaking lose it? Like, hell no, I'm not going to do it. And then lo and behold, 2018, bitch slaps me and says, Colin, I'm taking your millions. So yeah, I mean, I went up from, six figures up to, multi-millions, and ended up losing 80% of that and lost millionaire status. And I still had a good amount. I still had, you don't technically lose until you sell, right? But the whole hodl thing is absolute bullshit. Hodl is what all the rich crypto people tell all of the newbies, retail buyers, so that they drop their bags and people buy when the other guys are selling. It's an absolute horrible investment decision to just, I'm going to hold whether it goes up or down, and you have no risk management. It's absolutely insane. And all the other crypto guys that I was hanging out with, that was their whole thing. It was all this, we were drinking the blockchain lemonade. And you saw it, you were there. It was the Kool-Aid that was like, we're going to 100,000 BTC price, it's on. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. And we all learned the hard way that as fast as a asset can increase, it can also go down just as fast. And so going to something that is concrete and brick and mortar, and now all this chat GPT, it's like chat GPT is not going to be able to store your mattress, is not going to be able to store your motorcycle. But you know what? My self-storage units will. So in a lot of ways, while brick and mortar businesses like self-storage isn't as fancy or as cool as these, certain technologies that are coming out, they're things that people need and that technology cannot solve. Technology cannot solve if you have a 3-bedroom apartment and you're going to buy an RV and you want to go travel the US. My self-storage units can. And that's what I want to do. I want to invest my assets, and I want to help out other people to say, look, there's 55,000 self-storage facilities in the US. There are more self-storage facilities than McDonald's, Starbucks, Pizza Hut, Dunkin' Donuts, and Wendy's combined. More than all of them combined. So when you think of that, there's a huge market for it. And what's beautiful about self-storage, as opposed to the flipping houses, as opposed to apartments, is that it doesn't take 50 of them or 100 of them for you to really grow your net worth. You can do 2-3 self-storage facilities depending on the size, and it can be a complete life changer. And it has been for me. I didn't start off as a brokey, as we say. I didn't start off going from zero. I had some crypto assets, I had some cash, but to put in time and effort and energy into something where I was able to grow my net worth by over 7 figures, only using $20,000 of my own money to invest in self-storage, has been an incredible opportunity. And now my goal is, like, I know what I've been able to do. My business partner, his name is Mike Marino, Dr. Mike Marino. He's a dentist, 3-day practicing dentist that's getting ready to retire this year. And it's been life-changing for him. So now we have these assets in different states. We have them in 6 different states right now. I've never spoken to one of our tenants ever. We have systems in place. And so my whole focus is finding great deals, and then we can find the money. The hardest, most challenging thing in self-storage is finding great deals. The money is out there. The money loves self-storage. The operations and management is very simple. It is not rocket science. So that is there too. It's finding the deals, how to analyze the deals, how to be able to speak to sellers intelligently. And if you can do that, then all the other things will come in place. And what we say is that self-storage investing is a team sport. And so to try to wear all the different hats, to try to do the marketing, to do the acquisitions and talk to the sellers, to do all the contract work and putting it under contract, to do the financing and getting a loan, to raise the money from private investors, to do the management and to do the value add, to do the improvements, all of those type of things is a lot to do for one person. And so what we say is, look, I didn't do it all by myself. I put together a team. Now what we want to do is say, look, go out there. We're going to teach you how to find self-storage deals, submit them to us, share them with us, and then we'll do everything else. So you focus on finding the deals, which is the most important skill to learn in self-storage. And then we're going to help you out on all the other sides. And if in the future, if you want to do it all yourself and wear the hats and raise the money or bring your own cash or whatever, that's great. But the thing that keeps people from getting started is thinking that they have to do it all, and they go into what we call overwhelm. And so we want to make it simple for folks and would say, look, there's 55,000 facilities. When I'm talking to these sellers, these guys, a lot of them, I'm like, it's like, I just got off my tractor. I'm just, I'm trying to put these self-storage facilities on the back burner. These things, they just, they're a pain in the ass. And I got these guys, they haven't paid for 3 months. Like, they are not sophisticated investors. 75% of all of the self-storage facilities that are out there are owned by mom and pops. So there's major efficiencies that you can bring to the market and make some tweaks here, make some tweaks there, and you can increase the revenue greatly. So that's what we do.
One of the things that I remember, like from the crypto days, is you would have certain rules to see if you would invest in a certain project or not.
Yeah.
And that would, in your mind, be, oh, this is a good investment versus bad investment. When you lost all that money, how was kind of like your rules changed? Not even just necessarily in self-storage, but when you're going to go ahead and make an investment, what are kind of like the boxes that have to check off before you actually start deploying your money that you've learned?
That's a great question, Mike. So the first and foremost is looking at what is the potential of this investment, and then what is the risk. And it's very easy to get blinded by the potential and not look at the risk. And that's what happened with crypto. And so for what we do now, we analyze and say, okay, what are all of the potential benefits that can come from this? What are the value add? And so on investments, when it comes to self-storage, we look at how can we increase the value. So what are the ways that we increase value in self-storage facilities? One of the ways is that we look for facilities that are under market rent. A lot of these owners, they've owned these self-storage facilities for 10, 15, 20 years. And they're like, oh, I got my Uncle Johnny. He's got 4 of these units. I don't feel comfortable about raising rents on Johnny. So he's been paying the same rent. And so they have relationships with these tenants and they don't feel comfortable about raising them to the street rate. So then their competitor a mile and a half away is charging $100 for a 10 by 10, and these guys are charging $60 for a 10 by 10. And so we can go in and buy it. We don't have to improve it. We don't have to do rehab. We don't have to do anything. All we have to do is increase the revenue on that. So that is a very easy way that we could say that's a value add opportunity. We don't have to put in any extra investment, any additional capital X, and we can increase the overall revenue, which when you increase the revenue and the expenses don't increase at the same time, then you're going to have a higher profit margin, which means that you're going to be able to sell it for a much higher amount. So at those type of things, increase the equity. Also being able to have additional land as well. That is another value add, so that we can say, okay, there's 20,000 square feet here, but it's on 4 acres. So we can put another 50,000 square feet on here. So that's another value add that we can get the revenue that's already coming in, which is another thing to, we don't speculate. In crypto, it was all about speculation. It was pray and hope, I wish, I hope. Oh, this guy, the tokenomics are really good. All of this bullshit, which is what people who are trying to sell a hope and a dream share, where with self-storage investing, we can say, look, this guy's charging $100 for the same thing that this guy's charging $60. We can increase the price, not gouge our customers, but increase it to $90. So it's still less than the guy a mile and a half, but now you just increased your revenue, greatly just by increasing the price. And no one is going to take a day, rent a truck to move to the competitor and pay an extra $10. So when you talk about like what do I look like? What do I look for when it comes to the risk? When it comes to what it is that we're doing? It is looking at the opportunities, the value add. So if you have those things that increase the value, that decrease the risk because you're increasing the revenue, you're increasing the overall value of the asset, then that in itself decreases the risk. On the other side, what we do to decrease the risk with self-storage is that we look at all the competitors. So what we do is what we call a DCA, which is a deal competitive analysis. And I have a VA that she is amazing. Her name is Victoria, and she's in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Argentina, and she will go and mystery shop all of these facilities around the area. So she'll say, I am coming from Texas. I have a 3-bedroom house. I need to get I'm having my house be built, and I need to put about 5,000 square feet worth of storage, some large amount, because most of these come in, 10 by 10s, 100 square feet, 200. So then we can get an idea of how much available storage that these people have around the area. So we get what the rates are, but we also get, which can be even more important, how full these facilities are. So what we do is we find out, okay, these 5 facilities that are within a 5-mile radius. In self-storage, we look at 3, 5, and 7-mile radius. 3-mile, if it is in a very cosmopolitan area, if it's in a city center type area. 5-mile, if it's more of a secondary market, not as busy, maybe a suburban or a city that is up and coming. And then 7-mile for tertiary country out in the boonies, so to say. So that we look at that. So if it's a secondary market, we go 5 miles out, a radius around that facility, and we find out exactly how much storage that they have, what they're charging for it. And then it's just a matter of supply and demand. Now we know, okay, there's tons of availability. Everyone has units. Everyone is half full. That's a major problem. That's a huge risk. So what we're looking for is places that already have really strong demand, that need storage, that have waiting lists. We have a lot I would say the majority of the facilities that we bought, most of the sizes of the units that when we were calling and doing this mystery shopping, they didn't have any available units. They had waiting lists, in fact. And so if we see waiting lists and the markets are below rent, then we know that we're in a good area. So that's another way of how we are able to minimize the risk. We do that. Another part, because with demand and the supply, that is the largest risk when it comes to self-storage, is the competitors and the overall demand. What we'll also do is we will talk to the city, and we will find out who's pulling permits, and are they pulling permits for self-storage. So not only will we know what is currently there, but we're also going to know what is in development. And if there's no permits being pulled, that means that no one is going to have any product for the next year and a half that it takes to get the land, to go through all of the things that you need to do in order to be allowed to build it, going through all of the lease up. So we know we're in a very good position with that. So understanding the supply demand is very important. Also, another thing that we do to reduce the risk is on the financing side. A lot of these first-time investors, they'll get these loans that have these adjustable rate mortgages. They'll say, oh yeah, we'll get you in at this rate, but it is going to adjust after a year. And we all know that what has happened with interest rates, with the government trying to tame inflation. So what's happening is that these rates have been continuing to go up and up and up. And these people that last year who bought when self-storage was on fire and everyone was making money and it was the hottest thing to do, they bought at the high end of the market when it was absolutely on fire, and then they got into these amounts, these loan products that now in another year, 2 years, they're going to start hitting that adjustable rate mortgage. Now that means that their payments that were $5,000 a month are now $6,000 a month, $8,000 a month. So that's going to really put them in a challenge as well. So that's another thing that we do. We don't do, we only done SBA financing, which is 10% down. What we'll do is we'll put more money down. So we'll put 20 to 30% down. So we're not over leveraging ourselves too. That's another big no-no, very big challenge is being way over leveraged. And then, you have a facility that was worth $1 million, you leveraged it up to 900,000, the market takes a correction, now it's at 850, and now you're underwater, and that's where people get into trouble, and that's when they start looking at not making their payments and letting the bank have it and all of these things. So really understanding the supply and demand, and also on the financing side, not over leveraging ourselves, and really finding the right deals and buying correctly. We look at 58 deals, 58 people that raise their hand and say, I'm interested in selling, even if it's retail or they want, a ridiculous price, we count that as one of the 58. But we talk to 58 people that are open to selling their facilities before we find the one that makes sense. So we're talking to a lot of people. We're not buying retail. We want equity on day one. And then 2-3 months later, we want to be able to just do very simple things that don't require a lot of capital in order to increase the revenue. And that puts us into a very strong position on an investment side.
One thing that I thought was like really interesting is you took 6 figures and you turned it into multiple millions in a risky asset like crypto.
Yeah.
And you see something less risky, which would be like storage units, like kind of what you said. Chat GPT is not going to go ahead and store, your furniture, right? And you took 20 grand and you turned that into millions. So walk me through how you did that. Like, how did you take 20 grand of your own money and how did you turn that into like millions? What was the step-by-step process that you did? For someone that has no idea what real estate is, no idea what self-storage is, how would someone take 20 grand and turn them into like multiple millions?
Great question. So, and that's $20,000 that we had to put in. My partner and I each put in $20,000. We only had to do that because a seller was going to do what is called a seller carry, which means that they were going to allow us to pay 90% of the facility, and then they were going to give a second mortgage of 10% of it, which was about $90,000. And so at the end of the day, we had to bring $20,000 to the table. But if we didn't have to do that, I would be able to say that we bought, $10 million worth of assets with no money out of our own pocket. And the way that we do that is through using first traditional financing. So we get loans from banks for 70 to 80% of the overall value of the overall loan amount. So let's just make it easy. If we say, okay, we got this self-storage facility, we're in it for $1 million. We're going to go out into a bank and say, hey, bank, here's our finances. Here's all of our, W-2s and what we're making and our credit and all of that. And so they look at it and they say, okay, we're going to finance it, but we're only going to give you 70%, let's just say. So they are going to give us 70%. They don't want to give us the full amount because then if something happens, they're over leveraged themselves. They want to know that if the worst situation happens that we don't pay, that they can take the asset, the self-storage, they can sell it and they can get their 70% that they put on it, right? So what we do then is that 30% that we need to bring to the table, we go out and find other investors, private investors that want to make reliable returns. And what we do is we get these deals that are so good that we can get 70% financing at, let's say now it's about 7 to 8% that we have to pay. We were getting it last year at around 4 to 5%. So it's already bumped up. But still, if we're able to buy an asset for instance, one of our deals, we bought it for $905,000. We sold it a year and a week later for $1.8 million. So we almost doubled our investment on it. So do we have a problem paying 5, 6, 7% on it if we're increasing the value and being able to actually exit it for twice as much? We have no problem paying that. That 30% investors that we're saying, hey, investors, we're going to give you equity. We don't give them an interest. We don't say we're going to give you 10% per year. We say we're going to give you 5% of the deal for the amount that we need to raise. So normally what we've done in our deals is that for each percentage, we'll say, look, for every $20,000, we're going to give you 1% in this deal. And based upon here's our numbers, here's what we're buying it for, here's what we're going to do to increase the value. And in 3 years, this is what we plan on the value being. And because of that, we can say, look, we believe we're going to give you a minimum of 20% per year return on your money so that you're going to participate on the cash flow. You're going to participate on the equity that we create by increasing the value of this asset. And then if we refinance out or if we sell it, you're going to participate on that as well. And so you're participating on that side on the advantages on the asset itself. And then they're participating on the tax savings as well, the depreciation and all the write-offs that we're able to do. And so individual, a passive investor, they don't have to know anything about self-storage. All they're doing is writing a check to us, but they're partners in the deal with us. So just like if we have, let's say 80%, we're giving 20% to the investors, we have way more incentive to do as good of a job as we can do for the overall team, because we're getting the majority of the benefits of it. So these guys, they're in the same boat as we are as far as equity partners. And because we're able to get 70 to 80% of that financing from a bank, we can give those 20% returns, because that 20% returns is only coming from a small percentage, 20 to 30% of the overall amount that we need. So the blended amount is a lot less, is 12, 13%. And if we're taking an asset and we're doubling the value of it in, a year, 2 years, which is really kind of our goal on everything that we do, we want to be able to double the value of it. We can offer these amazing opportunities to investors. Most of our investors, 90% of our investors, are dentists and doctors. They make great money. They are usually risk adverse. They love the idea of stable cash flow. And so that's what we've been able to do. So we don't have to use our own money. And because of that, a lot of people, they limit their overall potential and their growth, because they're like, I only have $200,000. So that means I can only get $1 million of assets because I can only put 20% down. That's the wrong way of looking at it, because then you spend your money and you're like, okay, you're done. You don't have any more investment capital. We find such good deals that we don't need to bring our own money. And the people that do bring the money in, they can have success with us, join us along the ride, and everybody wins. And to give you an example, of this deal that we had in West Virginia, we bought it for $905,000. It was a gentleman that his father had died. He was in another state. He had no interest in self-storage at all. And he was like, I just want to be done with it. I don't want to list it. I don't want to deal with brokers. What can you give us for it? We said, we can give you $905,000. He was like, done. We did the deal. We ended up making some improvements to it, and we waited a week after 1 year so we could get short-term capital gains. Our investor, we said we're probably going to be able to give him, 20% return. He was able to get a 48% return on his money in 1 year and a week. This ER doctor was able to get this, and he was beyond excited for it. So we through our projections, we say, look, our goal is the 20%, but if we hit it out of the park, it could be a lot more than that. So that's why we say, look, you're in it with us. All, rising tide raises all boats, right? You're in the same water with us. We're going to work as hard as possible. We're going to increase this value as much as possible, and everybody wins. So that's how we've been able to acquire $10 million worth of assets and do it in a way where everyone wins, because we're finding great deals. We're not buying retail deals. We're buying deals that we want at a minimum to 2x. We want to double the value of the property, and banks can get their interest. Private monies get their 20% plus, and we're sitting with the rest of the equity. And that's how it's done.
So for someone that wants to be just like you and do something similar like that, it makes sense from the investor point of view, because they want to go ahead and get 20% and they don't want to do anything. But for someone that actually wants to be the operator, that wants to find the deals, that wants to go ahead and put the deals together,
yeah.
How are they making money? Is it kind of like a hedge fund where it's like they get a percentage of the upside as well as like more percentage based off of like whatever the deal? How is someone that wants to be just like you, how do they make money from the deal if they don't have to put any money down based off of what they get from investors?
So, I guess, ask me that again.
So for example, in the investor's point of view, it makes sense because they put in money in a deal, say $100,000,
Yep.
and like by the time the deal is done in 2 years, they would average about like 20% return for each year, and then they get paid out, right? Mm-hmm. So it makes sense how they make money. But for the people that want to be just like you, mm-hmm. that want to be like, Colin, I want to do exactly what it is that you want to do, that you're doing. I want to go out and find deals and create the deals. How are these people making money with the funds from the investors?
From the investors. So the same way that we are, right? So if somebody wants to find the deals and that they don't want to bring their own money, they don't want to do the investment, they got to find great deals. And if you can find great deals, and that's what we teach. our whole thing is the most important skill, the most valuable asset in the self-storage business is the ability to find great deals. So if you can find great deals, all of the other things come together. So that's why we say focus on being able to talk to sellers, being able to analyze deals, being able to do some quick analysis. We call it back of the napkin math, where I can, within 5 minutes, I can ask you 5-6 questions, and within 5 minutes, I can analyze and say whether what you have is a potential deal or not. And I don't have to go through all of these calculations and due diligence and calculations and all this stuff that all these nerds try to do. And they spend all this time doing all this analysis and these calculators and all this. And they go out there and talk to the seller, and they go and do this, and they spend days, weeks sometimes analyzing this thing, only to have the seller say, you know what, I've decided I'm not really that interested. I don't want to sell. And so people waste their time in this business more than anything that I've ever seen. In any other business, as far as what people do wrong, is that they focus their time in the wrong areas. If people focus their time on learning how to get people to either call you, or an effective way for you to call them, to send a text message, to send direct mail, to send an email. We send messages 4 different ways. We market 4 different ways to talk to sellers. So we have realized that that is the most valuable piece of the game. Everybody wants to know how to find good deals and how to analyze them correctly. So that's what we show them how to do. And if they do that, then they don't have to bring the money, because the deal will fund. The money will be found if the deal is found. And that's what a lot of people, they have the issues because they don't know how to quickly, efficiently find a great deal. And that's what we really do.
So if I just get started and I was like, okay, I have no experience whatsoever, how can I find a good self-storage deal? What would be like the step-by-step ways that I would need to do to find a good self-storage deal?
Got it. Great idea. So the answer to that is dependent on how much money and how much time that you have. So let's take both sides. So let's say that you have a lot of money, but you have less time. So then what I would say is direct mail is for the quality of sellers that you will get, and for the most efficient use of your time, using direct mail and getting a list of self-storage owners, which there's multiple list sources. We have a software that we can share as well that will go out and create lists. We'll use Google Maps and we'll pull self-storage facilities and put it in a spreadsheet. If anyone that is interested in hearing about what that is, feel free to reach out to me. What we'll do is we will show folks, this is how you create the list. And then this is a direct mail that you can send out. Now, direct mail is the most expensive marketing that you can do. It is ridiculously costly. It's between, depending on what you do and the letter and the color, or if you have, we do handwritten letters as well that will even look like a greeting card, looks like a wedding invitation. And this will cost like almost $1. So you're paying $1 for every single one of these. Like, that's really, really expensive, right? So the idea is, especially if you're only getting, a 1 to 2% return. So, we send out, 1,000 letters, and if we can get, 10, 20 calls, that's huge for us, right? So if you have money, direct mail is great. That will get callers. That will get self-storage owners to call you, okay? Now, if you have less money, then the other side but you have more time, then smile and dial, baby. Smile and dial is you get a list and you just start calling. And that's what I did. I was like, I'm going to do it all. I'm going to fail forward. And I was absolutely miserable. I was like, I hate this. I'm calling people that do not want to hear me. And I'm like, hey, Mr. Jones, my name is Colin. I saw your self-storage facility. You wouldn't be possibly interested in selling, would you? And I just smiled and dialed. And so if you have the time and you're willing to put in the effort, you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of FUs. You're going to get some people that are like, call me back in December and I'll be more ready. Like, you're going to get a lot of people that aren't interested. Like I said, we have 58 people that say, yes, we're interested in getting an offer from you. So that means that you got to talk to a lot of people. And for anyone that thinks that, this is easy, get rich quick, any of that, it's not. You got to put in the time. But if you have more time and less money, then if you go and you make a habit of making the phone calls, then you're going to get deals. If you have a little bit more money and you have some management experience, then we say, okay, go out and get a VA. This is how we train VAs. This is how we manage the VAs, and have English speaking, either Hispanic or what we use is Filipinos, which you're Filipino, right? So we use Filipinos or Latino English speaking individuals that will pay between $6 and $8 per hour. And now they're doing the smiling and dialing, and they're not going to be and sound as good as myself on the phone, or, they have a little bit of an accent as that we've all experienced it on the other side, but they'll also call 150 people every single day too. Like, they're absolute diligent cold calling ninjas. And so if you have a little bit more money and you have some management experience, then you can do it that way as well. And then the other two ways is email, which then you have to go through and set up systems and all of that. So that takes more money, but that is a lot more cost effective than direct mail. And then the other way is text messaging as well. But text messaging, you have to be really careful, and that you can get into trouble if you don't follow certain guidelines, and you can get fined, and you can have a lot of challenges with that. So that's kind of like, beware, don't do that. That's like next level. Like, once you have some money in the bank and that you can pay some fines if you get in a little trouble for sending text messages in a way that you shouldn't be doing that. I don't recommend that, but I recommend making cold calls, belly to belly with the seller. You just got to get on the phone, and you got to, as we say, fail forward and just experience rejection, and understand that every no that you get, and every seller that says, hell no, I am not selling, stop calling me, I hope you get cancer, anything like that you're going to get those type of responses, that each one of those negative responses is actually that step closer to you getting a deal where you can make $100,000 in cash flow over the next couple of years, where you can increase your net worth by $500,000 within a year, where you can do, some amazing things, and, travel around the world, and sit here in Warsaw, Poland, in Mike V's studio, being able to do podcasts and be able to have that time and financial freedom. So it's all about how much do you want it. And for somebody that is looking to get going, that's what I would say is figure out what your strengths are. Do you have money? Do you have time? Do you have both time and money? And then based on that, dial your marketing based upon what it is that your current situation is and what your goals are. And then the last thing I would say is, if you treat self-storage or any business as a hobby, you're going to get paid as a hobby. If you treat your business as a true business, you're going to get paid like a business. And most people in self-storage, and most people in anything that they do, they're just like, I'm going to dip my toes in it. I'm just going to do it maybe an hour or two when I have some time. And they never do it. It's like a hobby. They're like, well, I searched online for a couple hours and it's like, you're a hobbyist. You're going to get paid like a gardener. You want to get paid like a gardener, or you want to get paid like a boss? Well, then you got to match your actions and the task that is going to get you to where you want to go.
And so once I do all that, say I just got started, and then I started following you on social media and getting advice from you. And then I'm like, okay, Colin, I found a deal, right? I found a deal, and I did what you did, and I networked with all of these investors, these doctors, these dentists, these lawyers, people that make good money, and they just don't have any place to park it. How would I go ahead and pitch them a specific deal where they get good returns and I also make money out of the deal?
Yeah, great question. So that's all about deal structuring. And that's another thing that, we teach our students and our joint venture partners, is how to structure a deal properly so that everyone wins. And one of the biggest things is our deal numbers, where what we'll do is we'll lay out what the unit mix is, and the unit mix is what the size of the unit is, how many of those units, and then what the price is that they are receiving on that unit. So for instance, let's say it's a 100 unit facility. There's 25 5x5s, 25 5x10s, 25 10x20s or 10x10s, 25 10 by 20s, right? So that's what we call the unit mix. Then all of those, the amount of those, and then what those prices are. So we look at that, that shows, okay, what's the current potential revenue? If that was 100% full, which there is economic occupancy and there's physical occupancy. Physical occupancy is how many actual people have stuff in the units. Economic occupancy is how many people are actually paying on that. And there's always a difference, there's a discrepancy, because there's always people that have stuff that aren't always paying, and that's about 10%. So what we do is say, look, you have this is what it can be, this is what it's currently, the current revenue that it's doing, and then you start making the projections based upon, okay, the market rent is this. We can also increase the value of it because we're going to add another 20,000 square feet. So you have all these numbers and you lay it out. What is the current revenue? What is the potential revenue? And then we're going to do these value add things. What could be the revenue in the future if these things are done? And so you have these numbers, and then based on that, if I have an asset that today we can buy for $1 million, and then tomorrow we can, or not tomorrow, but a year from now, 2 years from now, it can be worth $2 million. Now we have $1 million of equity that we can create in this. The banks, all they want is their percentage, right? So all they're getting, we know that they're getting a fixed 7% per year on that money. So we know, that $1 million, let's just say that we borrow from the bank, we know that they are going to be getting $70,000, right? So they're going to be getting that amount of money. That's going to go, that's off. Now we have the 30%, we have the investors, the private investors that, okay, based upon our goal of getting them 20%, that's what we don't want to give up more than what we need to give up. You give somebody 20% it's very low risk. How many investments do you know that are out there where someone with very, very, very low risk in a asset class that has the lowest default rate in real estate? Self-storage investing, out of all the people that banks give loans out to, out of multifamily, houses, duplexes, all of that, it is the lowest default rate. So it's very low risk to the banks. So then the self-storage investors, they're the private investors that are giving us money, it's very low risk to them as well, right? So if we can give them 20% returns, then we know that, okay, that they're happy for that. So then we look at it, we back that out. We say, okay, if the banks are going to get this is how much they're going to be getting. Now we believe we're going to have an asset that's going to be worth $2 million. We're going to have this $1 million worth of equity. How much do we need to give these private investors to give them their 20%? And so then we'll figure that out, that amount. Okay, in order for them to give 20%, this is how much we need to give them. And then from there, then we know how much we're going to make. So we look at how much of the cake, how much of the pie do we have to give our investors for them to get a minimum of 20%. And we're not saying shoot for the sky. If everything works, if the stars align and the rainbows and unicorns come out and it's a beautiful situation, it's going to be 20%. No, we're saying we want, at a minimum, we want our investors happy. We want them to get 20% minimum. Then we can say, okay, that's what we're going to cut. And so in order for them to get 20%, we need to give up 20% of the deal. We give them 20% of the deal, and then we make them the most. So we always focus on the deal structuring based upon, okay, this is what the debt service is from the bank, from the traditional financing. This is how much we want to give investors. And each deal is different because some deals have a larger spread, have larger equity potential than other deals. Some of them are a little bit tighter. So we have to give a bigger piece to the investors for them to get their 20%. Our goal is to have as good of deals as possible so that we can give our investors the least amount on an equity wise, but they still get their 20% plus. And that's what our goal is. And then we get the rest. And so an investor that wants to get into it, does not want to use their own money, the goal is, as I keep on repeating it, find the good deals. If you find the great deals, then everyone will be taken care of. And you can give a lot less of the deal because you have a lot more equity that is overall baked into the self-storage facility. So that's what we do. We've been really successful with it. as I mentioned, our investor that is a hardworking ER doctor, we said 20%. He ended up getting, 46% return just after a year. He was beyond happy. And now he's like, what are the deals you got? I need to put my money somewhere. I need to put the 46%. Colin, you better knock on my door next, right? Like, I'm on your short list. I'm on your quick go-to Rolodex, right, Colin? Like, and it's great when you have that, right? Because now you think that ER doctor, he's walking into the ER room and he's like, yeah, how's that stocks going there, Jimmy? Hey, Jennifer. Hey, Dr. Jennifer, how's that multifamily deal going? Oh yeah, blew up. Oh yeah, I just got 46% year and a half short-term capital gains. What's up? And we're able to do that. So that's the name of the game. Like, I will only do business where everyone's going to win. And if everyone can't win, we don't want to do the deal. I'm not a young little spring chicken anymore. Like, I do not want to do anything that if I can't sleep well at night, I don't care if I am laying on a bed of cash. If I can't sleep well, I would rather sleep on a freaking dirt floor, but get a good night's sleep than sleep in a bed of cash and not be able to sleep because I'm concerned about X, Y, Z, or because investor A is going to be pissed off or is going to go trash me. And that's the beautiful thing, Mike, right, about the internet these days is that, if you really screw over people, if you really F people over, there's one thing about making mistakes, but if you are trying to have bad intentions, the word gets out. So, what we want to do is just make sure that everyone gets taken care of, and that's what we teach. That's what we share is win-win deals.
Your ER investor that got like the 46%, how did he get paid out? So he initially put in X amount of dollars, and then when he got the 46%, was he paid out monthly from the cash flow of the piece that he invested in, or is it more so like all of that is locked up and he gets paid when you actually sell?
Yeah. Both. So that is a very good question. So the majority of that, when we're saying that 20%, a big portion of that is based upon when we sell at the end. So all of our deals that we've done so far have been on projected a 2 to 3 year exit, where we're either going to refinance out, which we can refinance out and then be able to pay them back, and then they still stay in the deal. Or what we did with this West Virginia facility is that after we could have sold within before a year and a week, but we decided to hold off and do it so we could do the long-term capital gains tax. And so he was participating in the cash flow every single month based upon his equity percentage. I think he was at 12%. Don't quote me on it, but I think he was at 12%. So he was getting 12% of the cash flow on a monthly basis. But it wasn't huge. It wasn't a ton of money. I don't have the numbers to share right offhand, but it wasn't a huge amount. But what was huge and where he got that back was that when we sold it for twice as much, essentially, of what we bought it for, that's where that 46% came. And so the cash flow, yes, is it nice? It's great, we call it mailbox money. Like, we love sending our investors mailbox money. But the name of the game is we're buying these assets that aren't a beautiful asset a lot of the times. A lot of times they have under market rents. A lot of times they have bad management. A lot of times they don't have any software. A lot of times they don't have any kind of gate system. A lot of times it needs work. So the idea of like, we're going to buy it and all of a sudden they're going to get all of this amazing cash flow and we're going to get all this amazing cash flow and, we got sit back and just live off our cash flow. That's not the deal. We're buying a lot of times distressed assets, and that's why we're able to make a lot of money on it. And this isn't something where we can buy today and, it's going to moon and, it got listed on Binance and so it's going to 3X, right? Like, we're not going for that. We're buying brick and mortar businesses that we have to do things that is going to take months in order for us to increase the value of this asset. And so that's how we pitch it to folks is, if you are concerned about wanting this money in the next 6 months and you're expecting XYZ, this is not the deal for you. But all of these dentists, doctors, these high net worth individuals that are investing with us, they're putting this money aside for retirement. They're putting, this IRA money, they're not thinking about, they're not going to get it till they're 65 years old or whatever the number is. So what we're doing is we're saying, look, we're not saying you got to wait till, 2 decades, 3 decades, but, take a piece of this and forget about it. We're going to give you an update every month or depending on the deal every quarter, depending on how much information there is to share. We're going to tell you what's going on with it. You're going to participate in the cash flow, but the big win is going to be in the 2 to 3 years when we exit out of it. So that's kind of what our goal is, and that's how our investors win, is that we say, look, you're going to be on the road with us, you're going to participate in the cash flow, but the goal is to increase the value by X amount by doing X, Y, Z, not overnight, not snapping our fingers and revenue just comes out of the sky, but making strategic moves every single month to improve the asset, the management, the efficiencies, the revenue, all of that. And we're able to do that, which is a really, really cool opportunity for self-storage.
Here's an interesting question. So say a doctor or dentist gives you like $100,000, right? And wants you to go ahead and, get 20% return and then of course sell it later on for like some big gains. And you die. So he gave you the money, and then you die. Like what happens then with the deal?
Yeah, good question. So we have like someone gets hit by a bus, right? So every self-storage facility that we buy has its own operating agreement. So my business partner, Dr. Mike Marino, the way that we have it structured is that he is the asset manager. The way that we have all of our deals currently structured is that he's the managing partner on the specific facility. So that means if I want to go left, he wants to go right, we go right. Right? And that's another huge thing, is that when it comes to investments, when it comes to business, when it comes to partnerships, 50-50 is the absolute worst setup you can have. Do not do 50-50 partnership ever, because what you're doing is you're asking for conflict. I've seen operating agreements, no joke, that it's 50-50 partnership, and if there's a disagreement between the partners, that they flip a coin to decide what direction you go. That they literally are going to make potentially very severe, large business decisions based on flipping a coin. Like, that's horrible, right? So to answer your question, what happens if Mike gets hit by a truck? Then his assets, his value is it goes to his wife. Is now the management is now has his equity. However, I, being the second partner in charge, when it comes to what are we going to do, the decisions, and are we going to sell, are we going to keep it, all these things, then I'm able to be involved on the decision-making process with that. If something happens with me, then, we have other systems and setup. So ultimately, we want to make it set up so that it doesn't matter what happens, that if the things happen, that we have the systems in place. We're also looking at putting key man insurance as well, so that if something happens to it, that we can actually have an insurance policy that will pay off on the debt if something happens to us as well. So that's something that we're looking into as well. But now, we're pretty safe with how we have everything structured.
So if the dentist just puts in $100,000 and then both you guys die, there would still be ways for that dentist to go ahead and get money back?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And also, for instance, Mike's wife, who isn't directly on the day-to-day operations, but she's very knowledgeable on what it is that we have to do. And if something catastrophic happened, because we are in a place where we have equity, right? Every single deal that we get, we're buying with equity. So if something XYZ happens, if both Mike and I freaking get hit by a truck or plane goes down, freaking knock on wood. Let's not throw these things out in the universe too much. But if those things happen, then because you have an asset that is worth more than the debt on it, then you have options, right? The problems happen is when you have an asset that isn't worth as much as what the debt is, and then that's where people lose money. But if we're buying assets and maybe we bought the asset for $1 million and maybe we haven't done XYZ to make it $2 million worth of value, maybe it's only worth 1.3, 1.5. Anybody can be able to say, okay, catastrophe happened. we're going to list it with a broker and we're going to sell it and everyone's going to be able to make their money back. Maybe they're not going to make the 20% returns if, something catastrophic happens, but at the end of the day, their original principal is going to be protected. And it's going to be protected because we're buying good deals that we're getting equity on day one. So that's a really, really good question on that. And by buying the great deals and having a system in place that no matter what happens, if there's equity on the table, then people are going to be made whole.
What is an investor? So you find an investor, right? And you get the money. From an investing point of view, what is the investor's risk? The main risks in terms of when you find a good deal, and how do you mitigate each of those risks?
So like a private investor, like somebody that's going to be coming in. So a private investor, we go through what the risks are. I mean, and those risks that they have, those are the same risks that we have because they're coming in as equity partners, as minority equity partners in our deals. And so, they have the same type of risks that what we look at and what we mitigate. What are those risks again? Getting into financing, over leveraging ourselves, buying in a market that has way too much supply and not as much demand. That's the big areas. The big, real large mistakes that people make in self-storage, and thank goodness it hasn't happened to us, and that's the reason why we really do our homework, is that buying a facility where no matter how good of management practices and policies that you implement, you can't change supply and demand. You can't change the idea that there's X amount of population here and that they only need X amount of storage. You can't change that there is 200,000 square feet of storage oversupply in this 5-mile radius. You cannot change that. So by making sure that all of these risks that are outside of our control, that those things don't occur, then that's the best way to mitigate the risk, is keeping things that that management and smart business practices can't solve.
When it comes to now, like if something bad happens in the world, right? So like I talk to a lot of wealthy people and they just have a bunch of cash at hand, right? Just in case if something bad happens, if there's a black swan event, if there's another, recession or a depression. What are kind of like your money moves with this specific business model? If there was for like the next 12, 24, 36 months, right? We're in a lot of mastermind groups. We're like, what are you guys doing with your money? What are you guys doing with your money? So what is your plans, I guess, personally wise with your money wise, as well as like with the self-storage business and investing practices?
Really glad you brought this up. And history does what? Repeats itself. And 2008, when the market absolutely crashed, when people lost millions, billions of dollars in the real estate market, when it absolutely got destroyed, self-storage investing was the best asset class, the best performing asset class in the entire real estate market. The only thing that did better during the 2008 crash was data centers. And I don't know who the hell is investing in data centers, right? So, but out of multifamily, retail, commercial, all of these other different asset classes, self-storage did better. So now, does it always repeat itself? No, but we can look back and say, in 2008, this is what happened. Also, interesting thing, COVID, where everyone else, where retail and where office was getting destroyed, right? Everyone was like, holy shit, like office buildings are just vacant. It's like these ghost towns. That was going on during COVID. Self-storage had a boom. Self-storage actually grew. Occupancy went up. Vacancy went down. Overall rent per square foot went up. So if you look back and say, okay, 2008 crash, self-storage did well as compared to other asset classes. COVID, when other asset classes got destroyed, self-storage not just stayed even, tread water, it grew in 2020. You can look at that and say, why is that? Self-storage people, and this is another thing that when I saw this, I couldn't believe it. 1 out of every 10 Americans has a self-storage unit. That's how big the industry is. 2020 was $46 billion. It's going to be over $64 billion with a B in by 2024. So it is a growing industry. People, when they have challenges, when people are in transition, when people have divorces, when people have lost their jobs, when people need to move to the other side of the country, when people want to get into an RV and start traveling around, all these baby boomers, are they getting larger houses? Are they getting smaller houses? My parents had a nice 2,500 square foot house to raise 4 kids. They didn't need that. They now have what my dad calls a little hobbit house. It's a little 2-bedroom condo that they have that they don't have to worry about cleaning, and they don't have to worry about going up and down stairs. They don't have to worry about all these different types of things. So you have this whole baby boom generation that they're all going to be minimizing their things. They're all going to be looking at being more mobile. And then you also have a whole nother group of individuals, the millennials. And now, as a member back in the day, it was like, man, if you don't work hard, you're going to be living in a van down by the river. Now, millennials have made it cool to live in a van down by the river, right? Like you see all these, like, look at my retrofitted van that I took. It's this U-Haul, van, and I put a bathroom here, and I can go and shower, outside of the thing. It's like they made it cool to live in the van down by the river. So you have these these cultural changes that are happening. So to answer your question, self-storage, no one has a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen. But we can look at history, and we can look at what the trends are, and we can say that when people, and I look at my own life, when I've rented a self-storage, and maybe anyone else that has rented a self-storage unit or knows somebody, it's usually when things were in transition, when I was, I broke up with my girlfriend, and I had to get a new place, and my place that I had wasn't as big, and I had a whole bunch of other furniture, so I needed a self-storage facility. When bad things happen, when the economy, when people lose their jobs, we're seeing all these news stories of Twitter and Facebook and Google, all these layoffs that are happening, right? What's going to happen when people don't have money and they can't pay for their 3,000 square foot apartment? What do they say? Yo, Mike, you got an extra bedroom, bro? Let me crash at your place. They can't put their 4-bedroom, all their furniture and stuff. So what do? They rent a self-storage unit from us. So economic turmoil, while no one likes to see suffering, no one likes to see people in pain, in desperation, and any of that, those type of events that happen are good for self-storage because we can give people a place where they can put their things, where they try to figure out what the next step is.
One thing that I'm curious about, because you are in crypto, you understand real estate, you understand like investing in all of these things. What do you think is going to happen in the next 12, 24, 36 months in terms of like the economy? Do you think this is just kind of as worse as it gets, or do you think it's actually going to get worse over the next 12 to 24 months?
It's for sure going to get worse. It's going to get worse because we were living high on the horse. Everyone was getting the checks. Everyone was getting the stimulus. The money was flowing like crazy. I mean, having such low interest rates really did a number on all of these people because money was it was nearly free. And so when you have that, you have the supply and you have all of this fat that is out there, there's consequences to that. If you go and you freaking shove your 10 cheeseburgers down your face every single day, yeah, you're going to be enjoying that. Maybe. I don't enjoy it, eating horrible anymore, but some people, they enjoy it. They get that serotonin, that dopamine kick, right? But then you have the consequences of being a fat ass afterwards. It's the same thing. That's what's happening. The real estate market, the residential market, all these real estate agents were making tons of money. All these people were, buying a house and then selling it for, multiple, and then rolling that equity that they had into a bigger house. And it was just continuing to do that. Mortgage applications have taken a major hit. All of these rehabbers that were making tons of money, now they're being a lot more careful with buying properties. People who are serving real estate investors, I know guys that are owners of cold calling companies, and all of these folks that were wholesaling, flipping deals to rehabbers, they're now having a tougher time to move these deals. Real estate agents, we're seeing multiple 5, 10, 15 offers coming in the first 48 hours a listing was on. Now it's like chirp, 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 chirp. It's crickets. It's completely changed. And so the market's going to get worse. before it gets better. As far as inflation, it's who knows what's going to happen. What's going to happen? What was happening is when people were able to buy a house last year, they were able to get $1,000 mortgage. Now they want to get a house. Now it's going to be that same mortgage, that same house is going to be a $2,000 mortgage. They can't do that. So what are you going to have? You're going to have more people that are going to be going and renting. You're going to have more people that are going to be starting to live with friends and family. You're going to have a contraction that's going to happen. You're going to have after you have major expansion, you're going to have contraction. It's just like any type of cycle. And so, we are moving from within the self-storage industry specifically, we're moving from one of the strongest seller markets that there has ever been. Cap rates were as low as it's ever been. Investors were getting incredible prices for their assets that they were selling last year. Now, these same assets are staying on the market a lot longer. And the unfortunate thing, I don't want to say unfortunate, but for somebody like us that wants to buy, we still have all of these sellers that still in their head think that their assets are worth X, Y, Z. And we're like, nope, they're not. We can only offer X, this amount, 30% less than what they're asking for it. They haven't been hit up yet. They haven't had reality hit them and adjust their prices yet. So we're moving in self-storage specifically from a very strong seller's market to what now is becoming a buyer's market, to where you're going to have all these folks that were buying retail, that were buying top of the market, that were getting into storage because, their uncle made a bunch of money from it and they thought it was a good idea. And now these mortgages are going to start, coming into play. You're going to have all these issues that are going to be occurring on the financing side of people that were buying, SBA 10% down that don't have equity in it. And there's going to be a lot of challenges. But because of those challenges, we're going to be sitting really, really pretty and being in a beautiful buying stage where it's going to be a complete buyer's market where people will take advantage. And if you take action now during this buyer's action, when there's going to be a lot more fear in the market. And as we all know, what Warren Buffett, I believe, said is like, when there's blood in the streets, be greedy. And when others are greedy, be fearful, right? It has gone from greed to now turning into people being fearful. And with that change, that's when we need to be greedy. And I don't like to use the word greedy, but that's when we need to be aggressive. That's when we need to stack assets. The best time to stack assets is during these type of markets. Because what's going to happen after every down market comes the sunshine. After every, cloud and rainy days, the clouds depart and the sun comes out. And that is what's going to happen with the real estate market, with self-storage as an asset class, is that, yes, it's going to get tougher, but with that challenge, with it not being as hot of a market, there's going to be more and more opportunities. So we're just kind of sitting back. We're being more conservative with our underwriting. We're saying if XYZ, if the market does tank, another 20%, 30%, we want to be sitting pretty that if we're going to be buying in a market that has the potential to continue to go down on a value-wise, as long as we're buying correctly, now maybe that facility that last year we would pay $1 million for, now we're only going to pay $800,000 for this. So if the margins, if we're still buying it and it's going, where we would pay for here the value, now we'll pay here. Now it's just dropping what we think the value is. Now our purchase price just has to change as well with it. So the goal is to have the margins. The challenge, though, is that when the sellers still think it's worth this and we're saying we can only give that, now there's that discrepancy. So we're not picking up as much as what we were last year because we're having to be more careful. But we're happy. We can sit back. We got 6 facilities. We're cash flowing on every facility. We got equity in every facility. And now we can just kind of sit back and say, okay, let's look and wait for the right deals. And when we do find that, then we're going to strike and make it happen.
One thing, so the crazy thing is you only put in 20 grand and you turn that into like millions of dollars in terms of just like value, right? So every single time you do like sell one of these facilities and you actually make cash as like the person that's the deal maker, now you have it just sitting in your bank account. because you only put in 20K in the deal and now you have all this excess cash, like what are you doing with the excess cash? Are you just buying like more Rolex watches, or like what do you do with all of your excess cash if you only put down 20K into the actual business itself?
Yeah, great. Look, I'm just like really spending frivolously. I'm just like going out and just being really ridiculous with my cash and just, balling out. No, I'm absolutely not doing that. Do not recommend that. And I'm sitting on a good amount of cash. I am getting back. I got into the whole FTX thing when all of that went down. I was like, this is about as rough as what I've seen the crypto market. And when I thought that, I was like, this is a great time to get in. So, I picked up a good amount of crypto back with the FTX. I got, loaded up on a bunch of ETH at around $1,000, loaded up on some BTC at around 17, and, bought some shit coins as well, rolling the dice on that. So I still got the crypto thing. Like I still got that. I can't, you can, even though I got absolutely wrecked. And I mean, bro, when I tell you like how bad it was, there was a time that after I lost so much money in crypto in 2018, 2019, like waiting for it to come back, I would not watch any movie with Lambos, with anything that showed any luxury at all, because I was like, I could have bought 10 of those things. No, I can't. Like, I mean, I was traumatized by making and losing that much money that fast that it impacted my life in a fundamental way. So I do not go all in. In 2017, I was like, I'm going all in on crypto. I'm a blockchain believer. My name is Crypto Colin. I was freaking all in. And when the market is going up you're the smartest guy. And of course, you're brilliant and going all in. But when it's crashing, what is the number one rule in investing? Be diversified, right? Diversify. That's what they say. And there's different arguments on it. There's some people that say, be focused on one area and go all in, go hard. But boy, I'm not doing that anymore. So, I got some crypto. I just got sitting on some cash too, just like sitting on cash in some very, secure, not even worrying about it, just taking it off on it, just holding on to it. And then I'm also investing passively in deals. Like I have a deal that I'm passively investing in as an investor. I'm not involved on the operations of it. So I'm also looking at making passive investments in my own deals, as well as also in other storage operators that I know, trust, and and they, so I'm also looking at investing in storage as a private investor as well. So, I got different things. I got, where I'm just sitting on some cash, where I'm just going real estate, crypto. That's kind of what the goal is. But to do anything 100%, that is not the way that I roll anymore. And I think it's really important for anybody, no matter how much you believe in something, do not go all in. Do not go all in, because there is a lot of pain and hurt that can come from it.
What would you say your asset allocation is in terms of percentage cash-wise, percentage Bitcoin, percentage ETH, percentage private passive investment deals? Like if you were going to go ahead and have like a pie, what percentage would be with like your excess cash that you have, and how much you just keep like just for spending in, like, for example, your main bank account?
Got it. Yeah. So I would say I am, as far as net worth, I would say 80% of it is real estate equity in self-storage deals, or that I'm a private investor in. And then I would say 10% crypto. And then I would say 10% cash, timepieces, just things that I can liquidate really fast. I do some Forex type stuff as well, but overall, real estate is a big piece to it of as far as just overall equity that I have. And the reason why is just because we've done really, really good over the last 2.5 years. So it was, just every deal that we do, 6 months later, that equity is increasing. So it really increases the overall ratio of what my asset worth is, because my main focus is building our self-storage portfolio.
And what are your thoughts like index funds?
I'm staying away from stocks and index funds. You know, I don't mess around with it. I am a big believer now of really only invest in what you really, really know inside and out. And if I can get 20% investing in my own deals or in my other real estate buddies' deals, why mess with something that I have no control over? So I'm not messing with that at all. There's another thing when it comes to like investments is headspace. You know, like I used to have like 10 cryptos that I'd have, and I'd have to be watching it, and I'm looking at them and all the Twitter and following, you know, whatever all the guys say about it. It's too much. It's too much. Like there's only so much brain power and focus that you can have per day. And so, you know, I want to utilize my brain power as efficiently as possible, which means not tracking 15 different types of markets and cryptos and all of that. So, you know, KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Like I'm just keeping it simple, and I am just focusing on what has treated me really well, which is self-storage. And I know that if I continue to just focus on that, I help other people get what they want. I help private investors get their 20% plus per year. I help investors or first-time investors that want to get involved, help them get involved, help them, you know, go out there, you know, find deals, partner with us, joint venture with us. That I'll be taken care of. And if you know, it's I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, you know, if you help enough people get whatever they want, you will have everything that you want. And that's my goal, is really like, you know, how do you serve other people around me? Because if you have that type of service-based leadership and mindset, you'll be taken care of. And, you know, Mike, I mean, you're a huge piece of that. And, you know, you invited me here on the podcast, like you're all about how can I add value? You just, you know, spoke to a group of us and just shared, and just your openness for doing that. We are all reciprocal creatures when it comes down to it. If you do something for me, if you help me get where I want to be, if you help me be more comfortable on camera and give me tips on how to do this, you've absolutely destroyed it in what you've done on content creation and on social media, right? And so for you being as open and as giving as it is, in the back of my head, I'm like, how can I add value to Mike? I need to get Mike a self-storage facility. I need to get him some cash flow. He's making all this freaking magic internet social media money. I need to have him take a little piece of that and get some boring concrete and steel money. You know, like, and so that's my thought, is to kind of have the same philosophy that you have, Mike. And if I add value to other people, if I do good deals with other people, I'm going to be taken care of.
Man, thank you so much for hopping on today.
Absolutely, brother.